I am Shilpa Surulkar, Assistant Professor from Srimati K.G. Shah, Department of Computer Application under Dr. BMN College of Home Science. I am going to talk about the topic OOPS concept, class and object in Python for the subject Python Programming Lab. The OOPS concept sounds quite ironic, doesn't it? But it is actually very simple. Now let's see how. OOPS stands for Object Oriented Programming, and Python is an object oriented programming language. In this video, we will see what exactly is the OOPS concept along with its advantages. We will also be looking into what a class and object is with their examples. The word object oriented is the combination of two words, that is object and oriented, where object means an entity that exists in the real world, and the word oriented means interested in a particular kind of entity. So, we can say that object-oriented programming is a method of structuring a program by bundling related properties and behaviors into individual objects. The main aim of OOP is to bind together the data and the functions that operates on them so that no other part of the code can access this data except that function. That being said, there are quite a few advantages of using this method of programming. Some of them being reduce redundancy, increase productivity, high-end security, and ease of upgrading and scaling the program. Let's look into what a class is. A class is defined as a collection of objects. It is used to create user-defined data structures in Python. It contains the blueprints from which the objects are being created. It is a logical entity which has some specific attributes and methods. Hence, it makes the code more manageable and easily accessible. To further understand class, let's look into a real-world example. Here, we have a blueprint of an airplane on basis of which the other planes are being designed. Thus, we could say that you need to have a class before you can create an object. Once you have created object, you want them to be able to do something. This is where methods come in. Now that we have understood what a class is, let's see how we can implement them in a program. To create a class, we use the keyword class, and the class consists of attributes, where attributes are the variables that belong to a class. This is the syntax where we have defined the class followed by the name of the class and colon. Class attributes are defined below the class definition. They do not have values for each new instance created. Class variables are variables whose values is assigned in the class. This is an example of class plain. Inside the class function, we have few variables that are defined, which are called instance attributes. These attributes have different values for every instance in the class. Having looked into the attributes that are defined inside a class function, let's look the functionalities which are called method. One of them being init method. The init method is used to initialize the object state. Like method, a constructor also contains a collection of statements that are instructions that are executed at the time of object creation. It runs as soon as an object of a class is instantiated. The method is used to do any initiation you want to do with your object. When you define init in a class definition, its first parameter should be self. The self parameter points to the address of the current object of a class, allowing us to access the data of the object's variables. It is used to access variables that belongs to the class. Class method must have an extra first parameter in the method definition. We do not give the value to this parameter when we call the method. Python provides it. If we have a method that has no arguments, we still have one argument. It doesn't have to be named self. You can call it whatever you like. But it has to be the first parameter of any function in the class. Self is similar to pointers in C++. Now that we have understood what a class is, let's see how we can implement them in a program. Here we have a class plain which has the class attribute type of value fighter jet. Next, we have defined a function in it which has 4 arguments: self, name, speed, and range. Here, self.name, self.speed, and self.range are instance attributes, where self.name is equal to name creates an attribute called name and assigns to it the value of the name parameter. Self.speed is equal to speed attribute is created and assigned to the value of speed parameter passed. Self.range is equal to range attribute is created and assigned to the value of range parameter passed. When class is defined, only the description of the object is defined. Therefore, no memory or storage is allocated. An object is an instance of a class which has the actual values. It consists of a state, behavior, and identity. The state is represented by the attributes of the object. It gives us the properties of that object. Behavior is represented by the methods of the object. It also reflects the response of the object to the other objects. Identity gives a unique name to the object. It enables one object to interact with the other objects. Here we have an instance of the class plane. It exists in the real world and its implementation of the class plane. An object can contain many properties and methods. The object we have used here is the fighter jet Rafale with the given speed and range. It also has methods that it can fly, it can shoot, and it can dodge. While reflecting this into a program, we use the class name along with the parameters and store it into a variable. Here we have created an object for a class plane and stored it into a variable j. Methods are functions that are defined inside the body of a class. They are used to define the behavior of an object. A method determines the type of functionality of a class, how it handles the data and overall behavior of a class. Without methods, a class would simply just be a structure. Let's continue off on our working program. In this program, the class plane has the method showName. The showName method prints the name of the jet. We have added another instance to this class. To obtain the outputs, print statement is used. In the print statement, we have j.name, j.speed, and j.range to fetch the values of the instance. To conclude, object-oriented programming is a methodology that focuses on classes and objects. The class can be defined as a collection of objects that define the common attributes and behaviors of all the objects. That's it for today. Thank you for being a patient listener.